Have you ever noticed how ordinary people like you and me, kind, decent, even good-hearted, can suddenly act with coldness and cruelty when placed in a position of authority? If that has ever made you uncomfortable, then you're about to face a truth you might have preferred never to discover. Because evil doesn't come from monsters. It's not born in deformed creatures, sinister smiles, or radical ideologies at first glance. It is born in us, in normal people. It sprouts when the right context, the right position, permission, silence, and groups spark the flame. Now imagine you're put in a position of control. Nothing extreme, no soldiers, no torturers. Just a situation where you command and someone obeys. Maybe it's a new job title, a uniform, a group where everyone listens to you. Do you believe you'd remain who you are? Or would something in you change? This question isn't just an intellectual exercise. It is the beating heart of an experiment that revealed, with disturbing clarity, how moldable and dangerous we are, especially when rules vanish, or worse, when they begin to validate abuse. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. This is a space for those who want to dive deep into the human mind with courage, honesty, and no censorship. Your voice strengthens this community that thinks rather than just repeats. Now, let's go back in time. Year 1971, location, Stanford University, California. A young man named Michael volunteered to participate in an experiment led by psychologist Philip Zimbardo. The premise was simple. For 2 weeks, he would live in a simulated prison built in the basement of the psychology department. Everything was pretend. Nothing was real, just a game. Michael was assigned the role of guard. In the first few days, he followed protocol. He did his duties without excess, but something began to change. As he put on the uniform, laced up the boots, and wore the sunglasses that hid his gaze, as he heard the cell door clank shut, as he saw prisoners obey his voice, a new feeling began to take hold of Michael. A different kind of freedom. Not the freedom to do good, but the freedom to command, to punish, to dominate, to humiliate. He began walking more slowly, deliberately, using silence as punishment, words as weapons. And in less than 3 days, Michael was no longer Michael. He was the guard. What's most shocking and terrifying is that no one forced him. No one ordered cruelty. He simply stepped into the role, and the role stepped into him. You might be thinking, but if it were me, I'd resist. I'd remember it's just an experiment. I'd never do that. That comforting certainty is precisely what makes it so dangerous, because what you're about to hear is backed by decades of studies, tests, analysis, and stories all pointing in the same direction. Evil doesn't require monsters, just context. Nietzsche once warned, "He who fights with monsters must take care lest he thereby become a monster." But he continued, "And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." The Stanford experiment wasn't an isolated case. It's a mirror of human nature, the error of moral immunity, the illusion of that would never happen to me. Most of us believe, with near religious conviction, that we'd never harm anyone. But that belief, paradoxically, is what exposes us the most, because it blinds us to the shadow we carry. As Alexander Solzhenitsyn, survivor of the Soviet Gulag, once wrote, "The line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart?" In the Stanford experiment, all participants were healthy, well-adjusted university students, specifically selected for emotional stability. And yet within a week, guards began issuing arbitrary punishments. And the prisoners began to comply. Morality didn't vanish. It was anesthetized. And the anesthesia came from a uniform, a title, an environment. When asked how he felt about humiliating others, one guard answered, "It wasn't me. It was the role. I was just playing the game." That's the core of it. Most of us don't need to be evil to do evil. We just need to stop thinking. Deindividuation, the death of conscience in the collective. This process has a name in social psychology. Deindividuation. When someone loses their sense of self and dissolves into a role or group, their sense of responsibility drops sharply. According to studies from Oxford and Harvard, contexts that promote anonymity, like uniforms, crowds, or social media, reduce neural activity in areas linked to empathy and moral regulation. It's the same mechanism that explains public lynchings, group bullying, mass radicalization, and online hate mobs. You stop being you and become us. And us, if not guided by principles, is capable of anything. The system, the true author of abuse. Philip Zimbardo later stated, "The system creates the situation shapes behavior. Behavior shapes who we are." So the chain of evil doesn't begin with individual malice. It begins with the structure of an environment. It's not enough to look at who commits abuse. You have to ask, who designed the game? The simulated prison never ordered torture, but it allowed it. And what is allowed becomes habit. This logic repeats in authoritarian schools, toxic workplaces, unchecked security forces, totalitarian regimes. It's the system that sets the incentives. It's the system that rewards cruelty and punishes compassion. An unethical environment doesn't create monsters, it releases them. Milgram, The Power of Obedience. In 1963, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted one of the most infamous experiments in history. Volunteers believed they were delivering electric shocks to other participants. With each wrong answer, the shock level increased. An authority figure simply said, "Please continue," and over 60% went all the way, delivering potentially lethal shocks. No threats, no yelling, just a lab coat. Authority, a role. The silence of the good, moral inertia. But perhaps the most disturbing part isn't those who abuse. It's those who watch and do nothing. This phenomenon is called moral inertia, the ethical paralysis in the face of injustice. The same that silenced witnesses during Nazism, the same that permits workplace harassment, the same that says, "It's not my problem." Martin Luther King said it with cutting clarity, "What worries me is not the shout of the bad, but the silence of the good." Philosopher Hannah Arendt, while covering the trial of Adolf Eichmann, one of the architects of the Holocaust, coined the phrase, "the banality of evil." Eichmann didn't seem like a monster. He had no hatred, no fanatical ideology. He was simply obedient, doing his job, efficiently, coldly, indifferently. According to Dr. Linda Carver, social psychologist at the University of Chicago, environments with opaque hierarchies, anonymity, and lack of oversight activate brain regions linked to moral dissociation. This leads to a real drop in the perception of guilt. It's as if the brain turns off its moral brake. When it feels protected by a group or authority, guilt disappears. And a world where no one feels guilty is a world where anything is possible. And if we already know all this, why do we still trust ourselves so blindly? Why do we keep saying, "I'd be different"? Because facing this truth takes courage. It means accepting that evil isn't an anomaly. It's a possibility. It's inside us, all of us. Recognizing this isn't pessimism. It's the first step toward clarity. Michael wasn't a sadist. He was kind, polite, studious. But in that basement, he changed. And that's the hardest truth to face. You, me, anyone. We're capable of much more than we imagine, for good or for evil. The difference lies in how we respond to power, to the group, to authority, to silence. In the end, the one who recognizes their own shadow has already begun walking toward the light. Share your thoughts in the comments. Conversations like this need to continue, and they begin with you. See you in the next video.